In the UK, the Prime Minister David Cameron's foreign aid target has been condemned as a con job with no evidence it helps the poor around the world. A recent study by a centre-right think tank says that billions of British taxpayers' money being spent are only being used to promote the Conservative Party's generosity and create a good image of the coalition government. Well, let's now talk to RT's Laura Smith. She is in London. So, Laura, just where are those billions ending up?
Well, let me give you three quite stark examples. The first is the example of British aid to Ethiopia, which totals £300 million. Evidence studies, BBC investigation shows that, in fact, it wasn't used to help poor people. It was used by the Ethiopian government to cement a corrupt hold on power. The UK government refutes that, saying that the money doesn't even go through the Ethiopian government. But according to Human Rights Watch, they say it does. And this investigation showed that, in fact, supporters of the opposition weren't allowed to receive food or seeds or fertiliser, which is what the aid was destined for. A second example is in India, a £388 million project aimed at improving Indian schools. The government here hailed it as a huge success. They said more children were going to a school as a result of it. But the Indian government says that around £70 million of it was either stolen or lost, that much of it was allocated to schools that didn't even exist, and that some of it went to buy cars for dignitaries, officials in India. Again, the UK government refutes that. And Nigeria, thirdly, a £100 million project to improve, again, the quality of education in Nigeria. An independent report showed that actually the result of it had been not to improve the quality of education at all, and they awarded the project in Nigeria their second lowest rating. Again, the government here refutes that, saying that the report's authors had only visited a handful of schools. So it's a pretty damning indictment of what's happening to all this money.
So handing out vast sums of aid money, how does it exactly help the image of British politicians?
Well, of course, the Conservative Party here in this country has an image of sort of stinginess and only wanting to help the rich, and it does go a long way towards getting rid of an image like that. It shows that politicians are magnanimous, sort of make them seem very generous. And of course, the government line is that more money abroad equals more stability abroad, which equals more stability at home. But this information does suggest that the government doesn't really care where the money goes or how it's administered or how effective it is. It only cares that it's seen to be giving. And in fact, there's a constant drive to increase the amount of international aid, so that 0.7% of the UK's gross national income will now be given over to international development. And the government is heralding the fact that it's the first country in the group of 8 countries to achieve that target. So this isn't going anywhere.
But this study is really quite critical, isn't it? Does it suggest the UK should stop helping communities abroad altogether?
No, it's not suggesting that. It's just suggesting that the money is allocated and administered much more efficiently. And in fact, there is good news on this front, because India is one of the countries that currently benefits from UK aid. But there's been a lot of controversy about that at home, with taxpayers saying, why are we giving money to help a country which has its own space programme? And so in response to that, the government's now stopping aid to India. It'll stop that from 2015. But also, a lot of these countries, by default, have problems with corruption, and they have problems with administering the sort of distribution of wealth. Nigeria is one of those, for example, also in Britain's aid programme. Nigeria is the second richest country in Africa. It gets $70 billion of oil revenues every year, and yet 2/3 of its population are living on less than $1 a day. So that money's going somewhere, together with the aid money, probably. And also, a lot of the aid money goes to the EU. 1/3 of Britain's aid budget is allocated through the EU, our old friends. Famously inefficient. They've had aid projects in the past, including promoting tourism in Iceland, I believe, and also subsidising a Turkish television station. You know, projects that the British taxpayer probably wouldn't consider particularly meretricious of UK aid if they were given the choice.
Laura, live in London, thanks very much indeed.